Zach Gowen was a special talent and a unique professional wrestler. As a child, Zach was diagnosed with cancer and had his left leg amputated. Going through a tough childhood with all the hardships that would come along with his condition, Zach never gave up on his dreams, and his dreams would become a reality when he was signed by the WWE in 2003. Though a mixture of Zach's young age, personal insecurities, and a tough locker room eventually led to the dream ending in under a year. So today's video takes a look at the career of Zach Gowen. Zach was born on March 30th, 1983. At the age of 8 years old, Zach lost his left leg due to cancer. Doctors had no choice but to amputate Zach's leg to stop the cancer from spreading throughout his whole body. 3 weeks after the surgery, his grandmother ordered him the 1992 Royal Rumble on pay-per-view to cheer the young boy up. Zach would get totally captivated by what he saw on TV, saying that for those 3 hours, he forgot about any pain he had as he escaped into the world of the WWF. It seemed the greatest medicine for a young Zach Gowen was pro wrestling. Zach remained a die-hard fan of professional wrestling, going on to be inspired by the ring styles of Rey Mysterio and Shawn Michaels. In his teenage years, Gowen said to himself that he would be the first professional wrestler with only one leg. He tried to learn how to wrestle by himself, but eventually he would become a student of fellow Michigan native Truth Martini. It was Martini who really believed Zach could make a living as a wrestler. Some may have looked at Zach and thought that professional wrestling would be a challenge for him, but really the exact opposite is the truth. His condition made for rather easy storytelling within pro wrestling. It connected with the audience. NWA TNA was just getting off the ground and Zach reached out to the promotion. Initially, TNA said that they were all booked up with no spaces currently available for new hires. Zach decided to send TNA a tape of his work, and he ended up getting a phone call just 4 days later offering him a job within the company. He debuted as Tenacious C and had a few matches within the company, but within practically no time at all, WWE heard of this unique wrestler who could wrestle with just one leg, and they decided to sign Zach to a developmental contract just over 1 month after he signed with TNA. Upon signing his WWE deal, Zach wasn't sent to Ohio Valley Wrestling, nor was he given any kind of special training. Instead, he was paid to sit at home and collect paychecks. Zach initially thought that WWE had simply signed him just to keep him off TV, as his unique ability surely would have been a reason for fans to tune into TNA, even if just out of curiosity. This all changed on the May 15th, 2003 edition of SmackDown when Roddy Piper and Sean O'Haire were booked to give Mr. America, aka Hulk Hogan, a beatdown in the ring. Zach was planted as a fan at ringside during this episode of SmackDown. When O'Haire and Piper started getting the better of Hogan, Zach got in the ring, hit Piper with an American flag, but then he took a devastating spear from Sean O'Haire. It looked brutal. Piper then went to grab Zach by the legs, only to get shocked when he pulled off Zach's prosthetic leg. On his debut, Zach said, "Piper and Hogan are not just 2 wrestling legends, they are 2 cultural icons. These 2 guys, along with Vince, were staples in my life because they were on my TV every week. To make my WWE debut with those guys was amazing, overwhelming, and awesome all at once." This storyline culminated at the Judgment Day pay-per-view when Mr. America, accompanied by Gunn, defeated Piper, who was accompanied by O'Haire. So Zach was now aligned with Hulk Hogan, but the Hulkster was also feuding with Vince McMahon at the time. On the June 26th episode of SmackDown, McMahon told Gowen that if he would join his Kiss My Ass club, he would be awarded a WWE contract. Zach refused, and instead he attacked Vince, which in turn led to Vince putting Zach and Stephanie into a match with The Big Show, with Vince saying that this was, quote, the first real handicap match in WWE. Seriously. In the end, thanks to some help though, Zach and Stephanie won the match and Zach won a WWE contract on this night. Enraged, Vince McMahon would book himself into a match with Gowen at Vengeance 2003. Vince won the brutal and bloody match. On working with Vince at Vengeance, Zack said that the experience was intimidating because he didn't want to accidentally hurt his boss. Zack needn't have worried though, as Vince shouted at Zack a few times to hit him harder, and Zack obliged. Zack would go on to suffer losses on SmackDown, which didn't please his new mentor, Matt Hardy. Matt would attack Zack after each match out of frustration following each loss. In the midst of this feud with Hardy, Zack would find himself working against Brock Lesnar. It's probably Zack's work against Brock that is most well remembered today. The decision for Zack to work against Brock was a last minute one, only intended to get heat on Lesnar and nothing more. Once Brock got his heat, Zack would go back to working against Matt Hardy. So in Zack's hometown with his mother sitting at ringside, Gunn received a vicious beating. To make the crowd stop treating Lesnar like a babyface, WWE had him destroy a skinny, one-legged kid in his hometown. Zack knew that the fight had to be brutal, and to his credit, he had no issues taking this absolute beating from Lesnar. Zack was normally booked as a guy who was defying the odds, but on this night, he was completely destroyed by the beast. 2 weeks later, WWE would continue to get the heat on Lesnar when the next big thing pushed Zack down a flight of stairs at the end of SmackDown. The spot looked vicious, and it really did help Brock look like a man with zero compassion. What you may not know though, was it was actually a stuntman that took this bump. The camera cuts to Vince McMahon before Lesnar pushes Zack, so the pre-recorded segment was made in such a way that us fans wouldn't notice the switch. Zack said of the spot, "Right before the stuntman is about to take the fall, I'm standing up there watching them film it. Vince McMahon looks at me and he says, 'You know kid, if you want, you can take the bump. You can do it yourself if you want.' I said, 'No thanks man. I know I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to fall down 2 flights of stairs in a wheelchair. I'm not trained to do that.'" As mentioned earlier, the Hardy vs Gunn feud was reignited afterwards as Brock went on to bigger things. Zack defeated Matt Hardy at No Mercy 2003, but mere weeks later, Zack would have his final WWE match when he suffered a loss to Tajiri on the October 23rd episode of SmackDown. Zack was fired from the company. Zack has openly said that he didn't know how to handle himself professionally in the WWE, and this was a reason that led to his firing. He said due to his insecurities as a child, he never felt he was good enough to be in a WWE locker room, so he overcompensated for his lack of self-esteem, which, in turn, made it appear that Zack had an inflated ego backstage. Zack has also said that he was not liked backstage at all due to how he came in and how he was able to work in main spots almost immediately. The combination of Zack's poor attitude and his peers taking a dislike to him resulted in Zack getting released. Zack said, "After I got fired from WWE, I was really angry and bitter. I felt like they picked me up from the street, took what they could from me, then tossed me aside. As I matured, I realised they were just doing what was good for business. At the time though, at 19 or 20 years old, I wasn't emotionally capable of handling the situation." Now without employment by the WWE, Zack began drinking heavily and started using drugs, but he has said that he would have gone down this dark path either way, and the seeds were planted long before signing with the WWE. Thankfully, Zack was eventually able to seek help through the WWE's wellness policy years after he was fired. The wellness policy promises to find help for ex-WWE superstars who are struggling with addictions. And Zack is, to this day, thankful for the help he received from the company. Ironically, he said that the WWE saved his life. Zack went on to work for independent promotions and also had a few appearances in Ring of Honor. To this day, he still makes odd appearances at Juggalo Championship Wrestling and other independents. With this in mind though, even though Zack isn't wrestling on a full-time basis and not on any sort of grand stage, he said that he couldn't be happier with his life right now. Zack also found some work as a stuntman in movies, but his other real passion outside of pro wrestling is inspirational speaking, which he still loves to do. At 36 years old and as a father, Zack sees his children as his main priority now in life. It must be said, after the trouble Zack had with addiction, he now looks great, and it's good to see him content and happy with his life. He is grateful for the opportunities given to him by WWE, but he enjoys his current freedom more so these days. Gowen is now also a part of a youth engagement company named Cool Speak, where Zack can be booked for speeches and workshops that focus on overcoming life obstacles, disability awareness, and staying resilient when the odds are against young people. In closing, there is no doubt that Zack's arrogance as a kid got the better of him, and within an unforgiving locker room that included veterans and workers not blessed with the same TV time that Zack had, there was no chance Zack could have survived in that kind of climate. Zack Gunn matured, got clean, and now helps others. Zack Gunn's stay in the WWE may have been short, but it was life-changing for him. It's good to be able to talk about someone who escaped the dark side of wrestling and is now doing incredible work, giving back to people by sharing his own experiences and raising awareness.